But so, moved back to my hometown. Funny thing happened when I moved back to my hometown. I actually got elected mayor of my town. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And the thing is, I ran for office as a joke. Like, I got my name on the ballot as comedian Jeremy Nunes, and my campaign slogan was, "Put a real joker in office." Because I was like, who would vote for that person? 80% of the town. But I guess I did an all right job. I actually won an award for being one of Illinois' most ethical mayors. Oh, yeah, thank you. And it was largely because I issued a fine to my parents. I remember my dad calling me when he found out. It's like, "Jeremy, why did I get this fine in the mail?" I was like, "Well, your grass is way too high. You have to mow your grass." He goes, "Jeremy, you mow our grass." I go, "Well, you should have called me sooner." And what a weird job. I had to review people's resume that wanted to work for the town. You know, one guy, his email address on his resume was bankrobber247 at AOL. I was like, how creepy is that? Like, obviously, I cannot hire someone who still uses AOL. Another guy, I was interviewing him. He wanted to be our city manager. And I said, "Can you tell me the difference between a regulation and a statute?" And he goes, "Sure. Regulation is a rule or a code you have to follow. A statute is a sculpture, like the Statue of Liberty." I hired that guy. And sometimes you think you're going to argue all night about stuff at the city council, and it goes right through. And another time, you think it's going to go right through, you argue all night. Okay. One night, I asked the city council to approve the purchase of 6 new picnic tables for the park. No problem, goes right through. Then I just kind of toss out there, "Anybody care what color we get?" 2 hours! You know what color we decided on? Wood. And every town, there's always one knucklehead on the city council. Ours had a guy on the city council, won $100 on his lotto scratch-off ticket, quit his job. I put him in charge of the budget.
Yeah, I think I would put him in charge of the budget. No question about that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. A clean comedian who has appeared in The Breakup, Last Comic Standing, 2 PBS miniseries, Comcast On Demand, a National Geographic special, and heard on ESPN Radio. His clean and witty comedy show has been in demand for decades, mainly because of his clever observations, unique storytelling style, and ability to improvise with his audience. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome to the show the very funny Jeremy Nunes. What's up, Jeremy?
What's up, man? That was quite the intro. Sounded like you're reading my Wikipedia page or something, which doesn't exist, by the way. But yeah, it was great.
Dude, it's funny you're talking about getting an 80 percentile result as you won the mayoral election. You know, comedians, man, have a great shot at winning in office. But I think is it Kazakhstan or some Eastern European country elected a comedian for president.
I was not aware of that, But
Yeah, they did. Eastern European. I think it might have been Bolivia or Romania. I forget what. I forget one of them, dude. But yeah, they elected the guy president. I don't know what it is about comics and running the world, but they love us.
Well, it's paid off. The entertainment biz has bred a lot of comedians, or a lot of presidents. You had Ronald Reagan, and then Al Franken, of course, the comedian turned senator, and of course me being the mayor of a town no one's ever heard of.
Right, dude. I mean, tell us a little bit about that experience, though. I mean, what was it really like?
Well, I think the biggest part is just dealing with sort of the small town complainers. The hardest part is you're juggling the small town complainers. You want to keep them happy so they vote for you in re-election. You got to keep your board happy, because if they're mad, they won't vote for anything that you need approved. And then you've got your employees. If they're not happy, then they're not going to get anything done. So it's this constant juggling act. I've got a million stories about it. You saw a few there in the Dry Bar special. And you want to break some news, Maurice? I have not announced this publicly anywhere. You want to break some news?
Let's hear it.
Right. Let's see. Left hand. Right there. You Can't Write City Hall. I just got a publisher for this book. It's going to release May 4. And it's all the stories of when I was the mayor. It's kind of like a comedy book and a tell-all about all the stuff that happens when a comedian becomes a small-town mayor. You can't write City Hall.
No, and you can't make this kind of stuff up.
You can't, man. You want a story, Maurice? I got one for you, man.
Okay.
I had one. So in the small town, you are sort of like, you wear all the hats. So in a big city, they have different people have all these different titles. Well, so I was the liquor commissioner, the health inspector, the chief of police, et cetera, et cetera. I was also animal control officer. So
wow.
I had this abandoned house had a family of skunks in it. And one of the old guys lived next door. He's like, you need to go in there and get those skunks out of there. And I was like, I'd rather just wait and get the county involved in that. They'll come take care of it. And he's like, nope, I know you have a gun. Why don't you get in that house and go shoot those skunks? I was like, well, I have a gun, but I'm out of ammo. You can't, I don't know if you know, but you can't get ammo on the shelves anywhere these days. So I was like, yeah, I'll just run in there with my gun. Like, hey.
You do it all, Jeremy. I tell you, man, you do it all, man. Amazing.
I know.
It's amazing. Look, Jeremy, tell me a little bit about this pandemic situation as far as a comic. I mean, it's difficult for us because we can't do our thing. We can't do what we do. We got to supplement our time somehow. Where are you actually performing on the virtual platform?
I have done a handful of virtual shows. It's a little bit different because I don't know what you've experienced, but a lot of time, you deliver your joke and then you don't hear any laughs. I'm like, oh, they didn't like that. And then like 2 seconds later, the laughs push through. And I'm like, oh,
that's how it works.
Okay. So, a lot of times, I'm used to performing live and I deliver the joke and wait for the laughs and they just don't come at all. So,
yeah. And it's really a rhythm that you have to kind of get used to. Have you done any shows outside?
Let me think. I did. I don't know how long do we have here, Maurice? I don't want to take up the whole show with my stories here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you say, Jeremy?
I said, how long do we have here? Because I don't want to take up the whole time with my stories, but I got a great outside show story.
I'd love to hear it. No, we got an hour. We're gonna kick it for an hour, man. Go for it.
All right. So outside show I do, it's this like small town festival.
Yeah.
And as most comedians know, outside shows are usually a nightmare anyway. Every once in a while they click, but most of the time, So
yeah.
I get there. It's a town festival. There are 13 people in the audience spread across an entire city block. And so gosh. I was like, where's the sound system? They're like, oh, we forgot. But there's a band going on after you. Why don't you ask the band? So I asked the band if I can use theirs, and they said no.
Wow. Wow.
So I have to yell my jokes. I know. So I have to yell my jokes to this crowd. And of course, it's a recipe for disaster. The best response I got after delivering a joke was this.
It's terrible.
I always tell people, like, it was so bad, even the crickets did not make noise.
Oh man. Oh gosh, yeah.
So I'm doing this show, of course, terrible. I'm just trying to sweat out my time. And then there's a lady in what you would call the front row, even though it's like, she's probably 30 feet from me.
Yeah.
And decides she's going to yell her hamburger order over to like a food vendor. So she's yelling like, I want double pickle, extra onion, extra mayo.
Oh my gosh.
And then in the distance, I hear this. What? So I grabbed the band's mic and I'm like, she said double pickle, extra onion, extra mayo. Here. Thank you. Then the band gets up. The guy's mad that I touched his stuff. And then he's like, hey, how much longer are you going to be? So he's asking, how much longer are you going to be? Like I'm the only guy in a public bathroom. And
yeah.
And
yeah.
so
Right.
I was like, hey, man, I got to finish out the contract. And he's like, well, we're ready to rock this town. Okay. Now, the average age of this town, average age of this band was like 80. So I say into the microphone, dude, the only thing you're going to rock is a chair. And my 13 people laugh. And I was like, thank you. Good night. Took that check, went right to the bank, got cash, man.
Yeah. That is, it's time to get it out of there. You got your one-liner in it's time to roll. We're going to rock this town. It must have been the Stray Cats. They were probably 75, aren't they?
I don't know if my opening act said, it's Tom Petty and the Hip Breakers.
Oh man. Oh gosh, that's pretty tough. Well, the reason I asked you is because it's either Zoom right now, by and large, or performing outside, unless if you're in Miami or a place like California, a lot of people are outside. So it's kind of difficult to do. When do you think we're going to get back to normal? You got a prediction?
Oh, I have no idea. I feel like it's going to start in the summer. This is a total guess, with my mayoral expertise here. I would guess it's going to start in the summer and then maybe by fall start to kind of fill back in. And then maybe toward December, it's going to be back to what we used to call normal, I think.
Yeah. There's no, I tell you right now, Jeremy, it will go, we will go back to normal. I read Revelation the other day and I never saw a mention of COVID-19.
Well, yeah.
So we should be okay, Jeremy.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's not, we're not there yet. This will event, but I do believe we're going to take this platform. I don't think this platform's going anywhere, though. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of guys that feel that way. I don't know what to think about that. Of course, everybody seems to prefer performing in person, but at the same time, as a comic, when you do your show on Zoom, and 2 minutes later, you're not shaking hands with drunk people and you're in your own bed. I mean, that's pretty nice.
Oh man, dude. I mean, listen, I have comedy friends now in Turkey and the UK and Italy, all over the world. I mean, so the networking is amazing. If you like to audition for film and TV, you can do it in your, the studio across the hall from your bedroom and wait on the call back. And sometimes you can appear in a commercial solely based on the fact that you were able to do a video in your studio. So, there's a lot of positives there that go along. But listen, I think a lot of comics, quite frankly and honestly, Jeremy, are just going to have to dive into this because, once this thing takes off, if you never jumped into this ring, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. You know what I mean?
I think you're dead on with that, man. Yeah. And a lot of time, I forgot what I was going to even say with that, but I'm with you. We've got to jump in. You got to deal with it. Well, I agree with that, Dave. Live comedy is so much better.
It is 100%. But I think we're going to be live. But the thing is, we're going to be live again. We're going to go back to normal. But this platform here is going to go with us. Like, this isn't going anywhere. It's going to be another avenue by which entertainment, not just entertainment, I mean, business, I mean, corporations, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this platform has shown them that they can expand what they do by learning how to perfect it, because you get triple, quadruple more done through the platform. It's dinero.
Yeah, sure. And I know what you're saying there prompted me earlier. So speaking of like the auditions and stuff, so I'm in Springfield, Illinois. What's his?
Yeah.
What are you talking, Dave? Taco Bell is authentic Mexican. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about, Dave?
But I live in Springfield, Illinois, and I've got management for TV and film in St. Louis. That's kind of the closest large market to me, which is I don't know, about an hour 45 drive. So for years, I have driven just about every week to St. Louis simply to audition. Hour 45 down, hour 45 back. And, as you audition maybe 1 in 10, you book them. So I've burned a lot of miles. And then to audition from my studio here in the basement, and I booked 2 commercials through online auditions, and I got a call back for a movie, didn't book it, but hey, I'm on the Maurice Brown Show. So what are you going to do, man?
Well, you got to love it, Jeremy. That's what
right.
You got to do. You got to love it. You're on the Maurice Brown Show. But, dude, I mean, everything you said is 100% spot on. I mean, it's like you're saving so much time and money by being able to audition in the age in which we are in right now. And it's quite mind-blowing. But to go back to what Dave Ebert said a moment ago, I mean, there is no way live performance is going to be outpointed by any other means. I mean, it's all about being live. It's all about being in that theater, that arena, that club, wherever. I mean, just and it's not. By the way, it's not close. So, but so anyway, Dave, I totally agree, and we're going to get back there. We're definitely going to get back to live. That's definitely coming back. I want to ask you this, Jeremy. You are a man of God, and you're a comedian, and when we do what we do as men of faith, as Christ believers, we have and we don't make an announcement to the world, I'm a Christian guy. We don't do that, but we know who we are, and so we have a certain standard that we try to live up to. How does your faith influence you as a performer, Jeremy?
A lot of people ask me, when I first started, why I was doing. Right on, Dave. A lot of people asked me why I was doing clean comedy in the first place back when I first started.
Okay.
And I didn't necessarily aim for clean comedy. It was just, that's how I talk. I talk like a sailor, as they say, So, so, and then as I started kind of getting through it, my goal when I first started is I want to be just as funny as Dirty Guys, and no one recognizes. So and then so that's where I am now, in my opinion. I just did a live show last week, and it was phenomenal and absolutely crushed it in a restaurant full of very secular situation without saying a single swear word. So it just takes time to sort of develop that, I think, is the first thing, and the confidence in doing it. But at the same time, we have to remember we are a target, and I'm not talking about the store I can't afford to shop at. All right. But there's people watching us, and they're waiting for us to trip up.
Great point.
They are. And every once in a while I'll be doing a show, and I'm kind of right at dancing the line, and then I see the cell phones kind of pop up, and I'm like, I don't know if are they taping me because they think I'm going to mess up, or they taking me because they're enjoying themselves,
You know what, Jeremy, that is a great point, my friend. I never really, marinated on that, because that is in play. They're waiting for. There have been shows where I've walked out the door and I wrote an idea because that wave of laughter came, and then I got caught up in it and probably made some references that I shouldn't have, right? And then I walk out and I go, Lord, I know. Did you forgive me?
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, you shouldn't have gone there. And sometimes it can happen, man. No, you're right. And you gotta catch yourself. You gotta be cognizant of it. And there are people that are waiting, they're salivating, waiting for you to slip up so they can let the whole world know that you ain't no Christian comic and you're not what you profess to be. No, there are a lot of people out there waiting for us to fall.
Sure. It doesn't just go for us comedians. Really, we've had some comedian brothers that have stumbled in the past, and it's been national headlines.
Yeah.
And then we've got, even just Christian leaders in general, especially the more prominent pastors and speakers, authors. Boy, those guys that are, I mean, they're out there, and the people are waiting for all of us to trip. And all I can say is we just got to pray that we don't do anything to embarrass God today,
Well, one thing I have found, because I've done a lot of clubs where, everybody's in there cussing, like, say, the comics, I mean, not just the audience, them too. But I'll go. Anyway, what I'm saying, Jeremy, is that when I get off stage, I find that people really don't care if you cuss or not. They're just focusing on you being funny. And if you are funny, they will remember, that guy never cussed either. He was the only clean comic here. People take note of that. So,
yeah, I agree.
100%,
Maurice. Yeah.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, I've learned that there's I don't know if you've ever met comedian Scott Wood or not. He's based out of San Diego.
No, don't know him.
He's the Christian Rodney Dangerfield, in that he's just like a one-liner type deal, a dude like Rodney Dangerfield. I've seen that guy go into secular clubs and slay. And I mean, he's just a clean comic. He's so clean, Jeremy. He flirts with, you thinking in the back of your mind, they're going to think he's too clean. And he just slays. So, I mean, it can be done. It doesn't matter to the audience as long as you're funny. It really doesn't.
Sure. I do feel like it's, it's I feel like it's such a
great point.
Actually, Dave. It's not a draw to be clean. It feels like in the secular world, anyways.
Yeah.
I actually had a club owner. I was headlining what was the Funny Bone down the road from me, and when I was there, the owner kind of came up to me. He's like, "Hey, just so you know, I didn't advertise you as clean. I know you're going to be clean, but I think it's better if we don't tell them that you're clean, and then you put on a great show, and at the end of the show, they'll go, you know what? I think that guy didn't swear a single time.
That's it right there. Because I think a lot of times, Jeremy, as clean comics or Christian, however we want to term ourselves, I think it's more important not to announce it. I mean, if you want to announce it, that's fine. But I think there's more weight in just showing up and doing it. And the audience will determine for themselves whether or not you're a good guy or a clean comic or what have. They're gonna notice that without a doubt. They're going to take note of it, and they're going to invariably, I've found, have more respect for you that you did keep it clean and didn't go to the level that the other comics went to. Although they were good and they were getting great laughs, I think they tend to respect a clean comic more when it's over, because it doesn't hit them until later. They're laughing and they're having a ball because they've been laughing all night. And then they realize later on, that guy was actually clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then sometimes they'll come up to you and they'll thank you for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't know what to add to that. It's just, I think the best way to pull it off is to not tell them. And then they figure it out later and like, wow, I guess I can enjoy a clean comedian.
Oh yeah. And so the beautiful thing about it is it's just something I took note of over time. And I think that, like you said, just to go back to what you said in the beginning about, okay, look, we just have a certain standard that we know we have to live up to. And and we just have to get up there and get it done because it's a little bit more pressure. I'm sure, though, that being a mayor gave you loads of comedy material, Jeremy.
It did. So you played the dry bar clip there, and like I said, I just you can't write City Hall right there, brother. So there's Maurice. There's no greater feeling than betting on yourself and winning. So I don't know what he means.
I'm not 100% sure on that one, Dave. But I like it. No, but I also, and I didn't get a chance to play. I was deciding which clip I was going to play, but tell us about how much fun it is to destroy your kids in dodgeball, Jeremy.
So I'll tell this story. It's in my dry bar special too. But so we had this string of nice weather, and I had one of these kind of like, oh, by the way, I'm not wearing my wedding ring, and my wife will be really offended if she figured out I was. But yeah, I'll be in trouble. But so I had one of those rubber dodgeball things, and we're kind of rolling it back and forth, bouncing back and forth. And my son, who's 5, just out of nowhere decides he's going to run straight for the road. Well, I start chasing after him, and I realize there's a car coming. He's going to get to the road before I get to him. So I took the ball, bam, nailed him with it. And so now I can say I hit my kid with a dodgeball for his safety,
Well, that was a good reason to crush him, Jeremy.
Sure. And then ended up taking him to the hospital not long after. Thought he had a concussion. Some guy hit him in the head with a dodgeball.
Right. Not advertising and putting it in their face that you're clean or Christian. They enjoy the excellence. If you advertise it, they won't try it. Well, here's the thing. If you go up there and advertise it, now you're going uphill. Because then they're going to think you're holier than thou, and the nerve of you to come in here and take away all of our fun and try to make us laugh. You can pull it off, but you just put an extra weight on your shoulder, when you do that.
Sure.
And listen, dude, you're already going uphill anyway, clean or not. There are people invariably, most people or a lot of people in the audience have already decided, Jeremy, that they don't like you before you utter a word. You're just walking towards the mic, and they just, I don't like him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't like the way he looks. I don't like his shoe.
Sure.
So you're already going uphill. And I think the miracle of stand-up comedy is to go into a room of pure, total, utter strangers, people you wouldn't have a conversation with in front of a target. But now you're going to make all these people your bosom buddies for the next 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, or however long you're going to be up there. And you pull it off. Like you pull that off. That's that's nothing short of a miracle to me. So it's just amazing.
It is, and another hurdle, a lot of them, in the club scene is a lot of people will sit down and think, I paid $25 to be in this room. This dude better be funny. Yeah. Or if they're on a date, I paid $50 because I paid for the lady too. Dude better be funny.
Dude better be funny. Yeah. So please don't have the guy introduce you. We got a clean comedian tonight. Don't do that. Jerry Seinfeld says what he hates it when he gets a great introduction. When they just list all of his accolades and yada, 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 yada. Jerry Seinfeld. And he says invariably the crowd's like immediately folding their hands like, make me laugh. So there are just so many things you don't need to add to the task that you have in front of you. So but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And as I talk about that, Jeremy, and being a faith-based comic, we do what we do for Christ. What is it like? Because now you're talking about standards. We're talking about the standards. People wait for you to fail. I'm sure over your time on stage as a comic, you've had to deal with hecklers. How do you handle them?
if well, the first step is, are they drunk or not? So
Okay.
I've at the church events, I've yet to have a heckler at a church event. Knock on wood, right?
Please knock on wood, Jeremy, please, because I'm not so sure that if you haven't had a. Anyway, go ahead, Jeremy. My bad.
But usually, if they're drunk, the best thing to do is just kind of sort of turn it around back on them, and I almost sort of guide them into leading the conversation. Instead of them reacting to me, I want to react to them, because whatever they say is not going to make any sense anyways, and I can make more fun of what they're talking, what they're trying to say in the first place. So that's I've been pretty fortunate most of the time. What you and I call a heckler is a little bit different than what sort of the general public perceives as a heckler.
Yeah.
So I've had plenty of times where the drunk guy is just trying to be a part of the show.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, plenty of that. I have never had one time I've had, when the guy's like, "You suck," one time in my almost 20 years now doing this. And even that one wasn't really on me. I had this show lined up very last minute as a tag.
Yeah.
And I was like, boy, that seems a little weird that they're going to do it. They sent me the booking agency sent me a tag like 2 days before my other show was supposed to happen. I was like, that's a little odd. Usually they book them together right away. And I get there and I see all these signs that this hypnotist is going to be at this show. And I was like, awesome. I've never opened for a hypnotist before. This is 15 years ago or so.
Okay.
And I was like, I've never opened for a hypnotist. I would love to see a hypnotist. And then the owner of this place is like, oh, the hypnotist canceled last minute. You are the show. And I was like, oh, do the people know? And he's like, well, we're going to tell them. And I'm like, all right. So all these people piling in. It's a sold out room. I bet it sat probably 200 people in there.
Yeah.
And, and I go in and, the guy goes up on the stage to introduce, and he's like, I know you guys are all excited to see the hypnotist. And, yeah. And he goes, well, he canceled, but we and you can just hear the air just, and he goes, but don't worry, we found a comedian. Not sure how good he is. Jeremy Nunes.
Oh, no.
And then it was so uncomfortable to walk on there. So they already hated me. And then on top of that, it's in the basement of a hotel. So I'm like 6'6", 6'7". The ceiling of this basement is probably right at 6'6", and the stage is probably a 6-inch elevated stage.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
I had to perform kind of with my head like 90-degree angle. Oh, not good. That's the one where you ever 2 minutes into your acting, you're like, how much time I got?
Yeah. Well, that kind of ties in with with my bombing story, because I was going to ask you what's the worst bombing experience you've ever had. That would have to rank up there with one of the worst. But I saw a story with Key and Peele, and you've seen them on Comedy Central. Had their little show, very funny. And they were invited to do be a part of this stand-up show in L.A., 15,000 seater. And you had Ari Spears, a lot of good comics that were in the rotation, and Key and Peele were a part of it. So when Ari's coming off, Key and Peele are going on. And he looked at him and said, "You guys are going to perform together? Good luck, right?" So he walks on about his business. They go up there, and I'd say maybe 20 seconds into their attempted routine, probably a couple of thousand are already booing. Keep in mind, this is Key and Peele, man.
Big names, yeah.
This is Key and Peele. And they are 20 seconds in. And long story short, they were supposed to do a 20-minute set. They lasted 9 minutes. They were booed off the stage by about 9,000 people.
My goodness.
So now the reason, but the reason I share that is because getting back to the miracle of comedy, it's like there's a big difference between sketch comedy, pre-recorded of all things, and live stand-up. So, I mean, the crowd can smell that you're not a stand-up comic. So that's one story, right? The other one, Jeremy, is if you're a comedian and you're opening up at a rap concert or a rock concert, I don't care what it is, they didn't come to see you. They came to see the rappers. They came to see the music, the rock. They came to see the rock band. So you go out there and you are going uphill, Jack. Like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. If you can pull out Bob Smiley, I don't know if you've ever met Bob Smiley.
Oh yeah, sure.
Bob Smiley,
sure.
He used to tour with all the top Christian rock bands.
Right.
And he said invariably 85% of the time he was booed off the stage. You know, Bob doesn't care. But Bob learned over time to get this steel exterior where it actually elevated his comedy. But it's just one of those deals. Getting back to the hypnotist, I told a long story to get back to the hypnotist. They didn't come to see you. They came to see the hypnotist. So when you're doing comedy, you only do well when people came to see comedy. Otherwise, probably not going to work.
Sure. I got a comedian buddy performs by the name of Dr. Gonzo, if that rings a bell.
I've heard the name.
So back in the 80s, he used to open for all the big rock acts doing arena shows. So over Joe Cocker and Joe Walsh and Huey Lewis, everybody who was huge in the 80s, He was the opening act as a comedian.
Yeah.
And so his trick was he would have somebody from the band introduce him and basically kind of give an endorsement. So, generally you go to these concerts, like a local DJ kind of introduces the first act. Well, he would have a member of the band introduce just the way to be like, hey, this guy is great. He's a lot of fun. He's been touring with us and we know you're going to like him, So then you've got an endorsement. And in his words, that bought him about 15 seconds. So he had about 15 seconds to fully win him over.
Yeah.
If he didn't get a big laugh in 15, it was done, he said.
I've got a comedian friend by the name of A-Train. He's based out of Florida. And he opens up for a lot of rap groups and old school R&B groups. And this guy, and this is a testament to clean comedy. This is a testimony. He was at a rap concert, probably like 5 of the top rap bands in the country. And he's the opener with the comedy. And he goes out there and he kills, right? He kills. When he's coming off stage, one of the guys in the rap group stopped him. He said, hey, man, how did you do that? You didn't cuss one time and you had everyone in this place laughing. How did you do that? And so he had an opportunity to witness to this guy. It opened the door for him to give a small witness. He didn't outright take the Bible out or anything like that, but he was able to, kind of invoke some wisdom to that guy because it blew him away. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And, sometimes, we as Christians, we have to understand the perception that we are putting off at the same time,
Right. Right.
So, for example, every once in a while I'll pop in an open mic just to kind of, try out some new stuff or,
Sure, absolutely.
dust off the cobwebs or whatever the situation. And I personally don't see an issue in having a drink, 1 or 2. Drunkenness, no, but, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But then I got to thinking, these guys, I'm the only clean act, and there's usually, 20 guys or whatever go up. I'm the only one that's clean.
Yeah.
I start to think, what do they perceive in me if I'm sitting here having a drink with them? Maybe to be sort of the salt or the light, maybe I shouldn't be drinking here.
Okay.
I don't know.
No. That's absolutely something to take into consideration. I mean, you don't want those guys to kind of get the whole idea twisted. It all comes down, Jeremy, on that particular issue as to, I think Paul addressed that, where, it's you can do something that's fine for you, but in an effort to preserve their perception, don't do it for them. You know what I mean? And he didn't say that was a prerequisite, like you can't do it because you're going to mess up their mind. He said, you're free to do whatever you want in Christ, but I would advise you, just because of perception's sake, that so they don't get confused, don't do this, that, whatever it is, you like to have a glass of wine or whatever it is that, is no big deal for you, but don't do it in front of them because they'll get the wrong idea. Bingo. So that lines up exactly with what you were saying.
Yeah. And then to add to that, so, the opportunity I tend to find is, a lot of these guys, they're not clean, but some of them can kind of walk the line. And so a lot of them that I see some talent in, I'll tell them, I'm not telling you to be clean, but if you can be clean, I can have you open for me, and then that has led to some opportunities, the long car rides. And then that's when you can have one-on-one conversation and, that kind of have a little more intimate approach.
And you have to, I know I produce clean comedy shows, and I know a lot of dirty comics. And I wish I had a better word for that. But anyway, guys that you use expletives. How about that? Anyway, but I have a lot of comedy friends like that. So I will invite them to perform on a clean show, even a family friendly show, with the understanding that, this is what you have to do. And most of the time they get it, and it helps them to improve their ability to do clean comedy. Now, there are some that have gotten so far away from the shore, Jeremy, they can't even any longer tell the difference between clean and dirty. They're that far away. They can do a set, and they will swear to you that they had just done a clean set, and it was as filthy as yesterday's laundry. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's tricky.
Yeah, I had a dude. So there's local Christian college about an hour up the road from me, and somebody put me in touch with them to do a show there. Yeah, and then this is the worst thing you can hear as a clean act is when the venue says, "We tried that once before, and the guy was so dirty." And then so now whoever that was has ruined it for everybody.
Exactly.
And so whenever they tell me that, I always say, well, who was it? Because then I'm curious, and then I can have a talk with the guy, Yeah. And they tell me the guy's name, Christian act. I was like, that's interesting. So kind of next time I chat with him, I bring it up. Like, hey, I heard you performed at this college and they didn't like you because you're too dirty. And he's like, what? They told me that, but I mean, all I said was, and he says, and I'm like, dude, you can't say that. like what you said before. I mean,
but he didn't get it, Jeremy. He didn't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. What I tell people is, first of all, think about, can you say it on TV? If you can't say it on TV, it's not even in consideration. But even if you can say it on TV, you still got to think about if it's okay to say it in a Christian setting, especially, So
100%. I totally agree with you, but I just think there's and it's sad that guys get so far away from the shore. As I said before, dude, it's like they are out there. They're like gone, and you can't work with them. You just can't work. There's nothing you can do. And I've had other comics, that kind of get it, and I've had them perform at shows that I've produced. But if I get hired to do a show, and I might bring one of those, and I'm probably a little bit too liberal with it, but because they're young, I'm 56, so a lot of these comics that I'm working around are 25 and 30, so I'm trying to help them, learn how to, at least be able to do clean. You don't have to. If you don't want to be a clean comic, you don't have to be. And I put the guy on the bill, and the church called me, and they said, Maurice, we don't want him. And I went, oh. I said, oh, okay. He's got to be clean. No. But I went to his Facebook page, and he was the furthest thing from the church as the devil. Anyway, but the thing about it is, Jeremy, people, they do their research, but I was I was just trying to help him out, but it's dicey. And you know, that's another one of the things that's part of our ministry. Certainly part of my ministry is to try to make a positive impact on guys that are in this industry that are, and I mean, they're just gone, dude. They are just gone. But I want to ask you, and in reference to bombing, are you the type of person that can get over it real quickly, or does it take you a while to get over it?
You know, it usually doesn't take me very long to get over it. Usually the same night, I'm beyond it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some guys, you know, I feel bad. Some guys hang on to that stuff for weeks.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
do. Yeah, they do.
To me, I don't care. You know, don't care. I don't.
Jeremy, I had a buddy that he bombed so badly. He was he was overconfident. He was at a rap concert too, by the way. This wasn't the same dude. He goes up there. First couple of jokes were pretty good, and then he said, I got him now. Now I got him now, right? That was his mindset. And dude, he proceeded to bomb. And it was so bad. The only way that he could get out of the venue was to walk through the crowd.
No.
He said on his way out, he overheard these two ladies talking, and they were like, he was so bad. Hey, Jeremy. So he ended up having to see a therapist.
Oh my goodness, that bad?
Yeah, it really bothered him.
You know, I usually can turn the bombing situation into a story. So most of the time, so like I told you the story about the small town festival. Another one, I don't know about you, but I do not want to perform at events that are about a person. So if it's like somebody's birthday or their retirement party or their wedding, okay?
Yeah,
because then the audience is viewing you as, it's their day, and now this comedian guy is going to come in here with his jokes.
Exactly. That bad deal.
Yeah. So get hired to perform at this dude's birthday. It was in the summer, and you know, I didn't have a whole lot of work, and they offered me a lot of money. So, you know, so we're doing
Why
it. And it's at this like brand new, like all you can eat Chinese buffet thing. And so they've got us in a private room. So if there's comics paying attention, the big thing is you got to be in a private room. You don't want to just be in the middle. So eventually they fill up the private room, about half of it.
Yeah.
Then this restaurant is so popular, all of a sudden the management asks, hey, do you mind if we've got a big party that is looking for a place to sit, and they're going to have to wait a couple hours, or we can just put them in here. And so people be cordial. They're like, yeah, sure. So now I'm performing in front of, it's like sort of this rectangular room. I'm in the middle of the rectangle, one giant long row of banquet tables, all people who are not even at the party. Then over them is the group that I'm there to perform for.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I try to engage the front row of tables. They could have cared less. Didn't want any part of it. I think I might have got a middle finger at one point. And so I keep trying to, so they won't engage with me. So I'm trying to talk to the back table, but the table in front of me, they're just chatting. They're like, why do we have to be quiet for a show? We're not here for a show, you know?
Yeah.
So dealing with all that. And at the same time, I'm performing now in the middle of this big rectangle room, which also happens to be the entrance to the room, which is also right in front of the giant walkway where everyone goes to the buffet. So there's just herds of people walking behind me as I'm trying to do jokes, and always just hear people walk by. They're looking like, what was it? Oh, what's this guy doing? What's that? Is that a joke? Was that? I don't think that was funny.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, and think, Jeremy, the thing about it too, it has to be special circumstances in which you perform as a comedian, because people have to be there for comedy. I'm here to laugh. It's all good. And if you're in a room that's set up for, you know, everybody's bunched in, and, you know, like you were saying before, if it's, I don't know, it's just got to be in a room that's set up for it. Anything outside of that, I heard Jerry Seinfeld say, if the temperature of the room is 1 degree above comfortable, it's going to be very difficult for the comic. There's so many, the acoustics of the room, the whole 9 yards. It's a lot of things. So a person that's organizing a comedy show, it's like you as the person they're going to hire, you have to decide whether or not it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, the money might be good, but it's like, this is not going to work. Been there, done that kind of thing. But no, and you learn it the hard way, man. You go, oh my gosh, there's so many do's and don'ts. And speaking of that, what is the biggest thing, Jeremy, that you have learned in comedy since you've been doing it that's actually made you a better comedian?
I'd say, it's so obvious, but we don't think about it, is that our job is to give an experience to an audience. They are there to experience us.
Yes.
Whereas, so most comics several years in still perform as, I'm here so this audience gives me the laughs I deserve because I'm good, my jokes are good, I'm a great performer, so they'll respond accordingly. When it's actually the opposite, you have earned the opportunity to give them what they deserve. So,
wow.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you a little story, just for example. So, just last weekend, I was in Topeka, Kansas. I got newspaper coverage going in. Local news was there. And I thought, why is it such a big deal that a comedian's coming to Topeka? I've performed here so many times. And then they told me, this is the first live event that's been allowed in Topeka since COVID happened. So It was a big deal. And I didn't quite get it at the time. So it was this sort of a restaurant. And they cleared out the dining room about 8, and they're going to kind of rearrange for a comedy show. And this is how I found out something bigger was happening, because they'd done the paper already, and then I saw the news kind of coming. There's a party of about 12 people, and they're kind of packing up and leaving. And this one guy stands up and he looks at me and he goes, "There he is. He's right there." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "He was in the paper." And I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "I thought there's no way I'll ever meet that guy, but there he is. He's right in front of me." And then I was like, "Why are these people so jazzed that, I mean, who am I?" And then that's when, the manager told me, so that's why it was a big deal that people got to come and have an experience for the first time in a year.
Yeah. And this is, I don't know what it's going to be like when we get back. I think once we get back full-fledged, the chances of killing are going to be pretty high.
Man, I'll tell you, that night, well, you've done comedy a good long time, I know. So you're aware, newer people may not be aware, but we as comedians, we're kind of giving energy out. The audience is kicking energy back. And because it's sort of this back and forth, we all kind of elevate each other. The intensity with which that audience responded to me was unlike almost anything I've ever experienced. And I told my wife later, I felt like also I gave the best performance I have ever given. Just, you're always trying to give a great performance.
Yeah.
And then at that one, I found myself like just doing more and doing it better throughout the whole show, and they pushed me through, like I said, and you're right there with the excitement of the audiences have to finally be able to come back. It's going to be fantastic.
It is. And I think as a comic too, you're always looking for that perfect show. I mean, it's like, you're always reaching for that perfect show where it's just like every joke was a home run, and you never really get there. I mean, I don't know that even the really great ones ever really get that. But I remember when I used to play, I'm too old to be playing basketball now. My knees are shot. But when I used to play, I used to try to get that perfect game. It's like I'm just like a really good outside shooter. I was like, it would be great if I nailed every outside shot just to let everybody know I'm the man. You know what I mean? Then I finally got too old. It didn't matter anymore. But when it gets to comedy, though, that's what you're thinking. And so the experience you had, I think, is very similar to what a lot of comics are going to initially feel, because people are starving for entertainment, man. I mean, people can't go out and have dinner like they used to. They can't go to a play, can't go to the theater, can't go to the movies, can't go to a concert. I mean, so many things that were like nothing, everyday stuff, we can't do. People are starving for it. And with your explanation right there, that's exactly what we're going to be set up for, man. So, and we better soak it up, because it probably won't last that long once they get used to it. Then it'll be back to the grind, as it were. But
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. This has been a great hour. We've been talking for an entire hour, dude. We've killed this 60 minutes. I want to ask you this, though, before we get out of here. Have you ever had a moment in all of the years you've been doing comedy, a crossroads experience where you were like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this?
Every day. No, I think I've definitely had them. Usually what happens, though, is one of my satellite radio residual checks will come in, and then I'm like, oh, I better keep doing this. No, seriously, though, I've had several times where I'm like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then you just have those moments, and then you think about it for a while. I remember telling people, hey, if you know of any jobs, I'm interested or whatnot. And then got to the point, go out, do another show, kill it, and then you're like, I'm going to do this forever, right?
Yeah.
And then the next show you bomb it, and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Well, what a lot of people don't understand is that, we make it look as though it's a lot of fun, and it's just, giggles and chuckles and whatnot. Wow, what a life getting paid to do that. But, it's a real test to the character, because there are bad nights, and it's like, I would rather be doing something else. Why am I even putting up with this? Or I don't even feel like doing this tonight. I mean, you just have so many of those times, and you have to power through that. And if you really want to be great at this craft, you have to power through those moments and those times or instances where it didn't go well that night or whatever it was. You're just not feeling it. You're getting, and then as you get older, you just get tired of getting yourself up to that level of excitement that's required to go, pull this thing off. But invariably, when you power through that, man, you just get better and better and better all the time. You don't even know it. You don't even know how good you're really becoming, because you're just powering through it. And then you'll stop and go, man, I've actually gotten pretty darn good. Those moments, they come. But also the crossroads experiences come for some, not all come. Some comics, they don't have them, but some do. And I was just wondering what your level might have been in that regard. Now, I want to ask you one last thing, Jeremy. What piece of advice would you like to leave young aspiring comedians that want to make this a career?
Well, you got to have strong jokes. So the best thing you could do is steal all the jokes.
Hey, Jeremy, let me interrupt you real quick. That's really funny. Richard Pryor said that he did that in the beginning. He stole jokes. Really? Bill, he didn't care. He said, I stole jokes from Bill Cosby, from the newspaper, from the comedy section. He said I did nothing but steal jokes. I didn't know any jokes, so I just I started out that way. And I'm not saying that that's what you're supposed to do, but it's interesting. A legend like that said that's what he did when he started.
That's interesting. I actually heard. I want to say it was Carrot Top. Definitely not the legend Richard Pryor, but I think
right
in the beginning he said he thought comedians were sort of like cover bands. So, just like, a band would go up and play somebody else's music. He thought you just went up and did other people's jokes. He said he's doing Bill Cosby joke, and then he'd do a Seinfeld joke. And then eventually somebody pulled him aside and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And and he was even given credit. He'd be like, "This is an old Richard Pryor." And then he would, do the joke.
Yeah.
So to the new folks, no, don't do that. My legit advice is, just like anything else, it takes time. Whatever you're doing, it takes time. Think about whatever job you have right now, how much better you are now than the first day when you walked in. You have good days, you have bad days. You just have to grow. Listen to advice. You don't have to take advice. I tell people it's sort of like when you have kids. Everybody's throwing you advice. I always listen to everybody's advice, but I don't take everybody's advice. So you'll get a lot of advice. Listen to what people have to say. Watch what the performers do night 1 versus night 2. Why did they do this during the first show and do this in the second show? Stuff like that. Ask questions. If you're willing to listen, comics will talk to you. And again, you'll figure out what's right for you as you listen. Don't have to take all the advice, but at least hear them out.
Great advice, Jeremy. Great advice. How can fans follow you on social media or contact you for booking?
So JeremyNunes.com is my website. If you're interested, You Can't Write City Hall. The book is, you can pre-order that right now. And you can see behind me there is, that's my Amazon Prime special, also available on ChristianCinema.com. Who's With Me, Jeremy Nunes, Dynamite Drop-In podcast if you're into pro wrestling. And then, all my social media stuff is Jeremy Nunes or Front Porch Comedy. If I got in as the first Jeremy Nunes, it's Jeremy Nunes. If not, it's Front Porch Comedy. So
all right, man. Awesome stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with the very funny Jeremy Nunes, and you can also watch this show later this evening at about 7 p.m. tonight, 8 o'clock tonight on Roku TV on the Creative Motion Network. And if you like this video, share it and subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy channel on YouTube. Once again, Jeremy Nunes on the Maurice Brown Show. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and may the peace of Christ be with you and your family, my friend.
And you as well. Thanks, Maurice.